Hey YouTube, Vermont Prepper here. Today what I'm doing is putting on some mud flaps on my M1028, and it's a pretty easy setup conceptually. A little harder to execute because I had to do a little modification to the flaps, which I'll show you. But these flaps right here are required to pass inspection. In the state of Vermont, at least, and I would imagine all over. You don't want things kicking up, especially when you have a 6-inch lift and dually tires in the back. I see the potential for rocks that can kick up and crack or break windshields. I've had a number of windshields cracked from thrown rocks from cars over the years living here, so I understand why that particular law or rule is in place. So I'm doing that, and I'm doing it without drilling into the truck. And basically, I have this galvanized pipe that I bought from Home Depot. They're very cheap. And I'll show you in the truck in a different segment here when I go outside to actually hang this thing what I'm doing. But basically, I'll explain it. We have a tow hitch, or a hitch with the frame of the hitch mounted underneath the truck, and there's a channel that goes all the way through that hitch, and that's where I'm mounting this particular galvanized pipe. So I'm not drilling into the truck at all, I'm drilling into the hitch. So again, I try and keep the integrity of the truck as much as possible, and sometimes it's impossible. I'll have to be putting on some fender flares, which I'll have to drill into the lip of the truck, but in this case I don't have to do that. So these mud flaps here are actually semi mud flaps. They are 24 by 30, and I did a trial run and measured. I put this galvanized pipe through the hitch channel, and I brought the flap out there and measured, and it turns out I had to fold over the flap in order to get a proper measurement. You see there's some extra flap there, and I'm not sure whether I'm going to cut that or just leave it. But these are stainless bolts that go through it. It's a little tedious getting them through and looking good. I'm pleased with the way this came out, and I'm hanging them before so that when I push this through the channel, I'll have to push this through the channel first before I hang the other one. But when I push this through the channel, I want them to hang, vertically, obviously. So that'll make it easier to do so, as the flaps will hang down naturally, so they won't be like skewed upwards or inwards toward the front of the vehicle. So that's what I'm doing right now, and the next step is to measure the other side and at least get it so that all of the bolts will go through, or the screws and nuts will go through, and then we can get this going. Here's how the mud flaps are going to hang, and what I have to do next is take off one side, which I'll do the right. I'll slide it through the hitch channel underneath the truck, and then I'll fasten it with some stainless bolts. I'll have to drill through the hitch and bolt it up there. But all in all, it should work out pretty well. Not a very expensive venture or project, just a little time consuming. Basically $45 for the flaps, then $15 for the galvanized pipe, and then assorted stainless nuts and bolts. They're fairly expensive, so let's say you add another $10 or so on that. So you're talking like $65, $70, maybe $75 at the highest, compared to over $200 for some of the receiver mounted ones, which in my view for these vehicles is not great because they block the shackles. So it's snowing outside now. Of course I got to get some longer stainless bolts because I didn't get enough, and I got to get more washers and nuts as well. So off to the hardware store. I really didn't know what size I needed to use, so that's why. But in any event, I'm used to 2-3 trips to the hardware store for a project. It doesn't always go as planned, but you have to be patient with it. We had about 6 inches of snow here. I actually cleaned that toolbox off, so I probably had about 2 or 3 on there, and then there's another 4 right now. But here's what the flaps look like, and right now they're just hung on the trailer hitch. You can see here I got them hung with bungee cords, and I hope you could see that on the camera. So, and we got it through the channel there, so they'll be pretty easy to take on and off. Right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill up through that channel and fasten it with some stainless bolts, so I don't have to worry about it moving around. I just got to measure, make sure it's even on each side, and then do that. So, you know, it's not the most optimum way of doing it, but it'll get me through inspection, and it'll be easy to remove if I want to. So all in all, I'm pretty happy with the setup. And then the next thing I got to do to get inspection complete is fender flares. Believe it or not, these stick out probably about 4 inches from the fender. So last thing, not too happy about that because I do have to drill into the lip right here, but not the end of the world. So here's what I did. You can see under here I drilled through the galvanized pipe, and I put a nylon lock washer there so it keeps it up against the top there because that's the right distance. And then I just bolted it to the top right up here. Right there. It's bolted there with a lock washer or lock nut as well. And that's pretty much it. Did it on both sides. Right there. And you know, this thing isn't going anywhere. You shake that thing, it's not moving. So, end of another project. One step closer to inspection. Alright, so I hope you guys liked the video. It wasn't too long. I didn't want to make it that long because it's not that involved. But in any event, hope you liked it. And thanks for watching. And as always, keep prepping. Vermont Prepper out.